Between 2009 and 2011, I spent 2 years serving as a missionary for my church in the southern part of Spain. I lived in 6 different cities and worked with hundreds of people during that time from diverse cultures. Frequently, the church groups with which we'd work would be composed of people from a dozen different nationalities, and many of the people I got to know were individuals or families who had immigrated to Spain for a variety of reasons, be it to escape violence in their native country or to find work to support their families. Many of these people, upon arriving, found themselves in situations little better than those they had left. Oftentimes mothers, trying to earn enough to support their families, would find themselves employed working interna, or living with and caring for an elderly individual. Such women would often find themselves trapped in wretched working conditions, and due to their immigration status, they would be unable to seek redress. Their employers could dismiss them, dock or withhold pay for any reason they chose, and generally mistreat them. And these were the lucky ones that could find employment. If the immigrant was coming from anywhere in Africa, they generally wound up selling tissues on the side of the road and living with a dozen strangers in a hovel. There was essentially nothing we could do for such people. Before I had arrived in Spain, I did not understand the controversy surrounding immigration. When I was a child, it was a vague, nebulous, almost unreal issue. Occasionally, I saw people from South or Central America at the supermarket, speaking quietly to one another in a language my parents told me was Spanish. When I was older, I began to understand that such people might come to work, but I didn't understand why they would need to come here, or why it would bother people if they would. And any concepts about why it was so important for such people to be here legally completely escaped my understanding. Being surrounded by these people in Spain, learning their circumstances and stories, desperately made me want to do something about it. Upon returning home, I struggled to find a place to apply myself to this problem. In my church branch, I found some opportunity, but the first chance to really work directly with people to help them immigrate legally came during my intercultural communication class. When St. Vincent's Catholic Charity Immigration Services was mentioned as an option for our service learning projects, I knew exactly where I would seek to volunteer. I was pleased and surprised by what I found there. The people were all dedicated and hardworking, and they knew how to navigate twists and turns of a system that I, and I'm sure many others, find utterly opaque. While most of what I did was clerical work, I felt lucky and blessed to be able to share in some small way in both these people's challenges and in their joys and successes. It was a special kind of pleasure to watch people come to the office and move on to successfully immigrate. The struggles were not easy, from delays in paperwork to requests for more information to outright refusal, but I was impressed by the people who worked at St. Vincent's. They were professional, they never viewed the case as hopeless, and they were always willing to try. There was a special sort of triumph at the end of the day in moving a file from the active cabinet to the completed cabinet. One of my tasks was to call people who had received some correspondence from the government and let them know that it had arrived. Often this was little more than an appointment for an interview or hearing, or confirmation of receipt of some other document. But every so often mail would come in on very official-looking stationery with "approved" stamped across it, and a welcome letter within. It was always a pleasure to contact these individuals and let them know that it had arrived. On one of my last days of volunteering, I called a gentleman who had applied for and received an approval for a green card that he did not believe he would get. I flatter myself by saying that I speak very good Spanish, but I struggled to follow the bursts of speech that came from this man. Finally, he settled down enough for me to get every word. "De verdad? Really? No me lo puedo creer. I can't believe it. Gracias. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you. Many thanks." Before he hung up, I could hear him calling for his wife to tell her the good news. I am grateful for this experience and for the fuller understanding that I have of the challenges that immigrants face and what I can do, personally, to help them move forward because of it. This project has expanded my understanding of immigration and deepened my appreciation for the efforts of those who work to better the conditions of all who come to our country.